You know what's funny? Because I say things and they say, did you mean that? And I'm like, well, yes and no.
You're happy to be misunderstood, though.
I'm, of course, because my ideas are complicated and they're layered. The whole point of me talking is to make people think. Mm-hmm. Let's look at something I just said. I said that revolutions happen with the assassination of a tax man, not sucking him off, begging to give him more money.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say that, and then I'll go on a rant, and people will they'll just go over their heads. They'll just hear the words, they won't think about it. But now they actually stop and think, okay, so the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, they'll actually start to think about World War I.
Yeah.
How were the banks involved in these things? Who was actually getting rich from these things?
Yeah.
Who were we fighting against? Like, anyone with a brain will listen to me and understand why I talk how I talk. Anyone without a brain will sit there and go, he said he's going to kill the tax man. Because they're fucking cards. And I've done my very best to dumb myself down for the general population. But unfortunately, a lot of them are beyond saving. One of the unfortunate consequences of my current legal troubles are it's forced me to lose a lot of faith in humanity once again. Because before COVID, I had some faith in humanity. But if you would have told me before COVID what they were going to do to us during COVID, I said, no way would we believe this shit and put up with this crap. And they did it for 4 long years. I lost faith in people. I was like, people are idiots. But then COVID ended and we started to recover. And I was like, maybe people have learned the media lies. Maybe they understand now that the primary objective of the media is to psychologically prepare people for what's about to happen. It's not to tell you what's happened.
Right.
It's to prepare your mind for what's about to happen. Let me give you a very simple example.
Or Gary Stevenson.
Gary Stevenson. High taxes are good for you. Let's put up the taxes. It's going to make the country rich again. Your kids are going to have a future. High taxes. He's taking a dildo somewhere in the back room because they got fucking blackmail on him so he never tells the truth. He takes the dildo and the money. He's telling you to give your money away. And then guess what's going to happen? Taxes are going to go up. I'll tell you the most easiest and simple example of this that I identified in modern times. Remember when P. Diddy beat that girl up in the hotel?
Yeah.
And that video was everywhere?
Yeah.
When that video came out, I said to Tristan, they're going to arrest P. Diddy. He goes, why? I said, that video is from 10 years ago. They were sitting on that video in the Matrix archives for 10 long years. It never saw the light of day. One day, it's everywhere. And everyone's saying, P. Diddy's a piece of shit. P. Diddy's a piece of shit. 6 days later, jail. They prepare your mind for what they want you to accept. Same with me. Andrew Tate's a terrible, bad person. Andrew Tate's terrible. Why did they all of a sudden start printing that I'm such a bad person and I get arrested a week later? So that people weren't like, why the fuck are you arresting this guy?
Right.
They want everyone to be softened to the idea. That's what the media does. It softens you to ideas. It doesn't report anything. So the reason I've lost faith is because the media, think of how it softened us to ideas during COVID. They don't just say one day you're locked in your house because everyone will say, fuck no. They say, we might have to lock you in your house.
Yeah.
We're discussing maybe locking you in your house. If we lock you in your house, it's only going to be for 2 weeks. We're going to have an emergency sit down with the Cobra Summit and we're going to discuss maybe locking you in your house. And they say locking you in your house every 5 seconds for about 3 weeks. So by the time the idea comes around, your mind's used to it. You're like, oh yeah, they've been talking about this. This is not a shock. It's not a surprise. They've been saying they might lock me in my house. NHS. Like a fucking retard. While the whole thing's, while everyone on Downing Street are partying, by the way, you didn't see your grandma die, but they were all fucking drinking on Downing Street, dipshit. And these same people are saying I'm the fucking problem. And this is why my faith in humanity has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Because there's people who sit there and go, Andrew Tate's accused. Didn't you see the BBC liars report that the Romanians said, liars, that Andrew Tate did something? And they're sitting there going, oh, well, maybe I believe Andrew Tate's bad. You're just fucking born to lose at this point. You're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, bro.
You're a fucking idiot.
I think what you stand for and what you teach in my mind is one thing is critical thinking. It's just thinking.
Of course.
Because people don't do, even when they watch your videos. If they're watching your videos, I mean, people say, oh, but you interviewed Andrew, do you agree with everything he says? I'm like, I don't agree with everything I said over the last 10 years.
Of course.
Of course. Right? So just when you're watching something, think. Be a critical thinker. If it's in the media, don't just blindly. And also, when people say things like they said about you, this guy killed someone after watching an Andrew Tate video. And that was the BBC.
Yeah. No, you know what we should talk about? We should talk about the number of fucking pedos that work for the BBC. Why don't we talk about that? Right. Why don't we talk about Hugh Edwards sending his ass to fucking little boys. When the BBC run up to me in Romania and they're like, oh, do you have a comment? I'm like, tell me about Hugh Edwards. You're a fucking nobody.
Yeah,
you think you're a reporter, you're a nobody. You don't have a badge. I tell the police to fuck off. You think I want to tell the BBC to fuck off? You're fucking clowns. No one gives a shit about what you say anymore. Anyone with a brain anyway.
Critical thinking, personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
Being strong, taking personal responsibility for your finances, for your health.
Absolutely.
That's the majority. When I see your videos, that's 90% of it. A little bit of trolling, a little bit of rage bait, a little bit of fine.
Got to keep it interesting.
Yeah, but generally speaking, I think that's the message.
But this goes back into what we were saying earlier, right? This is why I'm so happy for there to be losers. Because for there to be a winner, there has to be a loser. The reason it's so easy to win in the world today is because the majority of people are perfectly prepared to lose.
Yeah,
you just described, you have to wake up and you have to give a shit. You have to wake up and go, you know what? I'm responsible for my health, and I'm responsible for my finances, and I'm responsible for my family, and I'm responsible for the decisions I make, and I'm responsible for my work ethic, and I'm responsible for my motivation, and I'm going to win.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do to be monumentally wealthy.
Yeah.
And the reason it is so fucking easy is because most people can't do that. If everyone could do that, then to win would be hard. So I would hate for all the losers to start being winners, because then it's hard for winners to win.
Yeah.
And I still want to win against the winners.
Yeah.
But luckily, God has put us in this version of the simulation where it is so brutally easy to surpass everyone around us.
Yeah.
I look at people and just go, you haven't even fucking tried. It's like a race and the gun goes off and I start running as fast as I can. And I turn around and no one's even moved.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I'll jog then. And, I'm nearly done and no one's even moved. Then I start walking. Then I just lay down and just have a rest. And I look at the back of the finish line, the start line, and everyone's still standing there.
Yeah.
I don't feel like running. I'm not motivated. I'm stressed. I'm depressed. Gary said the government's going to fix it. Like, they're all just standing around the fucking start line.
Yeah.
And I'm right there at the finish line. And they're telling me like, oh, you're a bad person because you have money. I just gave a fuck about my own life.
Yeah.
Like, I just cared. How there are people waking up each morning and not giving a shit about their own life.
Yeah.
Who do you expect to wake up and give a shit if you don't? You think Gary or fucking Keir or even you or me, do you think any of us wake up and go, John, I really need to get John a Ferrari. I really need to get John a Ferrari and a hot bitch and a nice big house. Today I'm going to focus on John. No, we don't give a fuck. We'll help you if you're here to help, if you're here to be helped.
Now you care.
No.
You care about John.
No, the point is, if John cares about himself,
then you'll be able to help
then I'll help him.
Yeah.
But if John doesn't care about himself, I don't care about John.
Last interview we did, we had about 7 million views on that interview, and you even said, look, go down to my free newsletter.
Yep.
Do this, do that.
Absolutely.
How many of the 7 million people that watched the video will have done it? A percentage, fine. Yep. But the percentage that won't even... People message me, I'll be in London running an event for £1.
Yep.
And I'll say, come meet me. Oh, but I live in Bedford, it's a bit far. Okay.
Well, then lose.
Yeah.
Then lose. This is my point.
You could say to me, Samuel, come meet me in Dubai. Even if I wasn't in Dubai. As it happens, we're in Dubai at the same time. I'll be like, man, I'll come down. I'll fly down, meet you.
Right.
It's no big deal. You just got to do what you got to do.
People don't give a shit. And then they expect someone else to give a shit more than they do. And this is the point I was making about John. If you don't care about your own life, no one's going to ever care about your own life more than you do. You're just going to perpetually lose and perma-fail. Yeah. That's all you're going to do. You're going to perma-fail. Yeah. And it's not my job to drag you up from the gutter. Like you said, free newsletter, fantastic. That still exists.
There we go.
CobraTate.com. You can sign up to the newsletter for free. 10% of people watching this are going to take action and sign up.
Less than that.
90% are going to sit there and go, I want to be rich, and not even bother to type 8 keys on a keyboard.
Some people will have watched the first interview and they didn't do it, and now the second interview they're still here
and they won't do
doing it.
You know, this is another thing that's so incredible about the internet, and we'll tie it into your business as well, about the internet and about computers and these things. The dream, the primary objective of financial freedom isn't Lambos and yachts and these things. It's to not have constant anxiety, stress, and worry and complaints about health or having children or your mother needs you or your car breaking down. It's just knowing that all of life's little problems can be fixed because you have money, because you can pay someone else to fix them.
Yeah.
To achieve this dream, men in the 1800s would get into wagons and cross the uninhabited terrain or the unexplored terrain of the United States, risk murder or kidnap by the Native Americans, risk malaria or typhoid, and they'd spend 6 weeks traveling from the east of America to go all the way out west. And if they made it alive, they'd buy a shovel and stand in the desert heat all day long, digging in the sand for little pieces of gold.
Yeah.
The gold rush, people lost their lives for a chance at financial freedom. And nowadays you say to someone, you haven't got to do that. You haven't got to go die in a trench. You don't have to take a 6-week journey across unexplored terrain and risk your life. You haven't got to do that. You know what you have to do? You have to type on a keyboard. You can be rich if you type on a keyboard.
Yeah.
Go to CobraTate.com, sign up for the newsletter, type on a keyboard. They're going to go, yeah, later. How the fuck do you help these people?
Yeah.
What can I do? What words can I say?
Yeah.
And then they're going to sit there and go, oh yeah, the government's going to save me. The government is never going to save a fucking loser like you. You're a fucking loser. You deserve to lose. I don't feel sorry for you at all. Because when I had nothing, I'd do anything it fucking took.
Yeah.
If you told me I had to only type on a keyboard, I would have typed on that keyboard nonstop for fucking 72 hours, let alone 8 strokes. Most people who are losing deserve to lose.
Yeah, and that's just the first hurdle. They can't do the first hurdle. They can't get down to a program. They can't go on a website.
For a pound.
Yeah.
They can't come to your program for a pound.
How are they going to be able to get a deal?
Absolutely. And this is the point. So I've reached the level now, and I don't want to be pessimistic, but you get to a point where you start to realize after a while, you look around you and go, people get what they deserve to some degree. There is some form of cosmic karmic justice.
Yeah.
When I meet the kids and people I went to school with who are the same age as me, from the same terrible background I'm from, and they have these same shit lives, I refuse to believe that their own decisions didn't keep them there.
Yeah.
You're in the same town, in the same area, smoking weed with no fucking money. We went to the same school. I'm one of the most known people on the planet with hundreds of millions. You have fuck all. You cannot sit here and tell me that your own decisions had no part to play in this.
Yeah.
Of course it did.
Well, this is what I said to people when I first interviewed you. I said, even if you don't like Tate, the guy's worth millions.
No.
Yeah, listen.
Hate never comes from above. Hate comes from below.
Yeah.
And I think also, like, there's going to be a bunch of people who may say, oh, I don't like Tate. That's fine. When you become a cultural phenomenon, when you become the most discussed person in every classroom and all around the world, when you get attacked by the Matrix and thrown in jail and you're the subject of conversations in Parliament, when you've achieved a fraction of what I've achieved, then you can sit there and start to have an opinion. Because for now, you're an anon account on the internet.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, these people don't matter.
No.
And you know what these people would do if they saw me in person? Beg for a photo.
Right.
Because they've done it. I have seen people beg me for a photo, post the photo, and then someone sent to me, look at this guy, he posted a photo with you, and look what he said 3 months ago saying you're a bad person.
Yeah.
They don't give it, they'll just fucking type shit.
100%.
They're clowns.
Yeah, 100%.
They're clowns. Hate never comes from above. Everyone I meet who's famous and successful, everyone I meet who's doing something with their lives, cool.
Yeah.
There's always just some loser, some bitter idiot in their house.
Where do you get your counsel and your advice and guidance and stuff from? Who do you go to, if you need some help with something?
Well, that's a good question, but I think that wisdom in general comes from the brutal feedback of life.
Yeah.
I think when we talked about self-accountability, if you have true, actual self-accountability, if you do not need someone to keep that one part of your psyche functioning, if that one part of your psyche is active, then it's like an AI learning machine.
For you though, it's different because you've got to where you got to, right? You're at the top. So people aren't going to be able to relate to a lot of what you're dealing with the media, the press.
Yeah.
It's difficult to really get advice. Whereas when you're starting out, it's very easy to find someone that's 6-12 months ahead.
That's true.
So where you're at, it's a bit difficult to find. That's why I was interested.
That's true, but there is still going to be some common themes. Like, I believe there are some common themes of life that I have identified. Like I said, an AI learning machine. An AI learning machine, you give it a set of parameters, and then you set it off to learn, and then it learns by itself. And this is how it becomes smart, by sticking within the parameters. If you manage to turn on absolute self-accountability and perspicacity inside of your own mind, you're now going to pay attention to everything around you, and you're going to self-learn. And I've self-learned a few basic things which turn out to be true, I would argue, across all socioeconomic brackets. And the first one, and perhaps I'm wrong on this, but I seem to identify this terribly destructive thought pattern in people where they seem to believe that their enemies will have mercy on them at some point.
Right.
People seem to think that mercy is coming. Like, a poor person sits there and goes, the government's going to save me, or Trump's going to come and the stock market will go up, or maybe I can get a loan when the interest rates go down, or someone's going to give me something.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have mercy on me somewhere. My sob story is so unique and so interesting. It's so different to everyone else's. Maybe if I just sit and wait, someone will have mercy on me. Or they'll sit and go, well, my enemy will have mercy on me. The people who are destroying my country are just going to one day stop. They're just going to one day go, we're done with destroying the country. We're going to stop. Let me tell you something from personal experience. Your enemies never give you mercy. The people who lie about me are never going to stop lying.